Tom Brady has finally made his stance on Jake Paul's NFL dream crystal clear, and it's not the endorsement Jake was hoping for. As Jake insists NFL teams are ready to sign him, Brady delivered a blunt reality check that's ignited a huge debate. Let me break it down. So here's where we start. Jake Paul, boxer, YouTuber, the guy who's fought Mike Tyson and gone 12 rounds with names most fighters spend a decade chasing, says he's done with boxing soon, and his next stop, according to him, is the NFL. Not a flag football exhibition, not a celebrity showcase, the actual National Football League. Jake Paul is interested in pursuing an NFL career after boxing, and he's confident that he can step on a professional field someday, stating that teams are interested in his services. That's not a joke he tossed out once and dropped. He's repeated it, expanded it, and doubled down every time someone's laughed at him. Here's the exact plan, in his own words. Paul told Front Office Sports at Fanatics Fest that there's a lot of super mediocrity in the NFL, a lot of not good athletes dropping passes on a consistent basis, and that he has better hands, more speed, more strength, and works harder than they do, and that all it's gonna take is him practicing routes after boxing, because he's already got a couple of teams and coaches interested in bringing him on. Asked where he wants to land, he didn't hesitate. If the 29-year-old influencer comes to the league, he wants to do it for his hometown Cleveland Browns, saying he's been a Browns fan his whole life. He's also floated the Cowboys as a backup landing spot. Now, into this, Tom Brady steps, not with a press release, not with a formal statement, but through a feud that's been bubbling for months, one that ties directly into whether Brady thinks anybody wearing the Paul name belongs anywhere near an NFL field. It started with trash talk before a flag football game. Brady sat across from Logan Paul, Jake's brother, and didn't hold back. Brady told Logan directly that he was worried for him, that he's a good athlete, but the NFL guys are at another level, and that Logan simply isn't on that level. Then he doubled down on the whole Paul brothers approach to football. Brady called it cute, said he loves WWE, called it very cute, but insisted that real football, the NFL, is real competition. That cute comment didn't stay contained to Logan. It became the label Brady slapped on everything the Paul family does in football, including, by extension, Jake's entire NFL pitch. When you tell one brother his sport is cute and not on the level of professional football, you're not leaving room for the other brother's slot receiver dream to be taken seriously either. And then it got physical. At Fanatics Fest in New York, Brady and Logan Paul were on stage together and things boiled over. Brady and Logan Paul met on stage with Knicks star Karl Anthony Towns between them, and the NFL legend then attempted to slap the WWE star before they were pulled apart. Jake wasn't there, but he wasn't staying quiet either. Jake told reporters he was honestly upset and wished he'd been there to back his brother up, adding that he had one message for Tom. The Paul brothers were coming for him. Revenge is sweet, and Tom needed to keep his head on a swivel. So now you've got a Brady-Paul family war running on two fronts at once. One is physical, the slap, the threats, the revenge is sweet warning. The other is about legitimacy, whether anyone with the Paul last name has any business calling themselves NFL caliber. Brady's take on that second front has been consistent and blunt. He's drawn a hard line between real football players and everyone else trying to borrow the label. And Jake's NFL dream sits squarely on the wrong side of that line, according to the loudest voice in the sport. This is where things get interesting, because Brady isn't the only person who's had something to say. 3 other names have jumped into the conversation with their own verdicts on Jake's chances, and none of them are gentle. First, there's Antonio Brown, a former All-Pro receiver, who spent 12 seasons doing exactly what Jake says he wants to do. Brown's response was 5 words, no punctuation wasted. Taking to X, the famously unfiltered wideout, completely dismissed Paul's football fantasies with a blunt evaluation. Dude would get expletive rocked. Then there's Taylor Lewin, a former NFL offensive lineman, who's seen plenty of pretenders come and go. Lewin wrote on X that there was a 0.000001% chance he could make it to the NFL, but I would love to watch this unfold, reflecting the general doubt around the proposal. And then a football analyst named Ryan Infante put it about as plainly as anyone could. With all due respect, Jake Paul, what the hell are you thinking? The analyst said on Football Debate Club, 3 separate voices, a receiver, a lineman, an analyst, landing on the same conclusion Brady's been implying for months. So the question isn't just, can Jake Paul play in the NFL? It's what does it mean when the most decorated quarterback in football history won't even dignify the idea, and everyone else who's actually played the sport agrees with him? That's what we're digging into. To understand why this fight over legitimacy matters so much, you've got to go back further than the Brady feud. Jake's NFL talk isn't new. It's been building for years, quietly, in the background of his boxing career. Back in 2022, long before any of the Brady drama, Paul was already telling people he had a plan. He went on Twitter and announced he'd ordered cleats and gloves to start training. He wrote on Twitter, just ordered some cleats and gloves to start practicing routes for the NFL. That same year, he visited the Dallas Cowboys facility and posted footage of himself running routes at AT&T Stadium. Paul was seen running routes on the football pitch at the Cowboys' home stadium, displaying agility to beat his marker and receive the ball in the end zone. He even released his measurements to the public, like a prospect submitting to a scouting report. He revealed he preferred to play slot receiver and claimed he could run a 40-yard dash in 4.37 seconds, listing his height, vertical jump, arm length, and other combine-style numbers. For context, that time would put him in range of some of the fastest players ever timed at the actual NFL Combine. So this isn't a fresh idea Paul cooked up to troll Brady. This is a years-long fixation. And it goes back even further than the cleats and gloves tweet. It goes back to who Jake Paul actually was before any of this fame. Jake Paul is 29 years old and has never played organized football at the collegiate or professional level. But he did play 2 years of varsity football as a wide receiver and linebacker in high school, and has frequently expressed a serious desire to play as a slot receiver in the NFL. That high school stretch, though, comes with an asterisk. Paul attended Westlake High School outside of Cleveland and did play football. But there's not a lot of record of how he did, because he left high school by his junior year to pursue entertainment out west with his brother Logan, leaving no readily available statistics from those days. So there's no tape, no stat line, no college snaps, no combine invite, nothing that scouts could pull up and evaluate the way they would any other prospect walking through the door. Just 2 years of unrecorded high school football from over a decade ago, and a boxing career that followed instead. That boxing career is the thing that actually built his following and his fortune. And it's also the thing he now frames as a stepping stone rather than a destination. The YouTuber turned into a major boxer over the past few years, holding a professional record of 12 wins, 2 losses, and 0 draws, with 7 victories coming by knockout. But that record has a recent scar on it, and it's the scar that seems to have accelerated all this NFL talk. Jake Paul broke his jaw after getting knocked out by Anthony Joshua in their much-anticipated boxing match in December, going down in the 6th round. Weeks after getting knocked out and losing a chunk of his jaw, Paul wasn't talking retirement or recovery. He was talking about walking onto a college program. This wasn't the first time Paul had expressed interest in playing in the NFL. After getting his jaw broken by Anthony Joshua, he said months later that he wants to play at Stanford before making his way into the league. On a podcast appearance, he laid out the reasoning behind picking college first instead of walking straight into a pro locker room. Paul shared that after pursuing titles in boxing, he aims to become a slot receiver and ultimately play professional football, saying he has NFL aspirations after boxing, wants to play slot receiver, and thinks college first, specifically walking onto the Stanford team, would give him that experience, insisting he's being serious and that the idea came to him that same day. That last detail is worth sitting with. He's told multiple outlets, across multiple interviews, that ideas like walking onto Stanford's roster came to him spontaneously, the same day he was asked about it on a podcast. That's not exactly the profile of a 5-year training regimen. It's improvisation dressed up as strategy, and the goalposts keep moving depending on who's asking. Sometimes it's straight to the Browns or Cowboys. Other times it's Stanford first. Paul said he was originally thinking he'd just go straight to the Browns or Cowboys, but they're probably going to want to see him play first. So it might be better to start off in college and have an advantage over the younger kids before going pro. Whichever version you take, the through line never changes. Paul insists teams are already circling. Paul told Front Office Sports that he has received NFL interest as he contemplates a move from boxing to football, and said he simply has to practice some routes to prepare, indicating a wide receiver or tight end role. Nobody has confirmed which teams, nobody has produced a name, a scouting director, a workout invite. It's Paul's word, repeated with total confidence, against a total lack of anything the public can verify. And that gap, the confidence on one side, the silence on the other, is exactly the space Brady and the football world have been happy to fill with mockery. Which brings us to what happens when actual football players stop laughing along and start pushing back for real. Once Paul's NFL comments started making the rounds again, freshly stoked by the Brady feud spilling into headlines, the response from people who've actually played the sport arrived fast, and it wasn't gentle. Antonio Brown was first and loudest. Brown spent over a decade as one of the most productive receivers of his generation, and when Paul's comments crossed his timeline, he didn't write a paragraph. He didn't need to. Dude would get fiffing rocked, Brown wrote on X. 5 words. That's the entire review. And it wasn't an isolated jab. Brown's take became the headline for outlet after outlet covering the story because it captured something nobody else had said quite so bluntly. The reasoning behind Brown's dismissal isn't just trash talk either. It's rooted in the specific danger of the position Paul says he wants to play. While outside wide receivers often have the boundary to protect them from hits, slot receivers operate directly in the dirty areas of the field, running routes across the middle that expose their ribs and blind spots to linebackers and safeties. Think about what that actually means physically. Playing inside the numbers requires an entirely different physical tolerance than standard perimeter play, with slot receivers regularly absorbing hits from elite safeties and linebackers who routinely close at speeds exceeding 20 miles per hour. That's not a punch you see coming and can slip. That's a collision from an angle you never registered until it's already happened. A punch to the chin in a boxing ring is a controlled risk. A blindside hit from a 240-pound linebacker is not. Brown knows that difference from the inside. 12 years of getting hit by 240-pound linebackers will teach a man exactly how little a boxer's chin has prepared him for it. Then Taylor Lewin weighed in, a different kind of voice, because Lewin didn't play receiver, he played offensive line, which means he spent his whole career blocking for the exact kind of hits Brown was describing, seeing up close what those collisions do to a body. Lewin wrote on X, 0.000001% chance he could make it to the NFL, but I would love to watch this unfold, reflecting the general doubt around the proposal. Notice what Lewin did there, though. He didn't just dismiss it. He said he'd watch. That's almost more damning than Brown's take, because it frames Paul's NFL dream as entertainment rather than a legitimate pursuit. Not a threat to be taken seriously. A spectacle to be observed from a safe distance, like a car crash you can't look away from. Then a third voice entered, this time from inside football media rather than from a locker room. Analyst Ryan Infante broke it down on a debate show, and rather than throwing out one-liners, he actually explained why the plan collapses at every stage. Paul said he wants to walk onto the Stanford football team to bank college experience, then pursue an NFL roster spot in the slot, having first considered skipping college and going straight to the Browns or Cowboys, before deciding teams would want to see tape. Infante didn't let that plan slide by unchallenged. With all due respect, Jake Paul, what the hell are you thinking? The analyst asked directly on Football Debate Club. And here's the detail that undercuts the walk onto Stanford fallback hardest. It's not even really available to him. Paul's fallback plan of walking onto the Stanford Cardinal roster is equally far-fetched, since Stanford operates under rigid academic progress rate standards and strict athletic enrollment caps. This isn't a program that hands out roster spots to famous names who show up wanting a tryout. It's bound by academic and enrollment rules that exist specifically to keep walk-ons like this from happening on a whim. Even if he cleared that hurdle, the level of competition waiting on the other side isn't forgiving either. Even at the college level, Paul would be lining up against future NFL talent, players who've spent their entire lives mastering press coverage technique, hand fighting, and spatial awareness, where a blindside crackback block from a flying 245-pound linebacker could be an entirely different experience than taking a punch inside a ring. The internet's mood matched the football world's when Paul's comments about super mediocrity and NFL players dropping passes went viral. The replies weren't kind. The internet was not receptive toward Paul's comments, with one popular reply noting that paying Anthony Joshua $100 million to box him is one thing, but he don't think he can buy his way into the NFL. That distinction matters. Paul built his boxing career, in part, by picking opponents and negotiating the terms of the fight, controlling the risk, the matchup, the money. Football doesn't work that way. There's no version of the NFL where you can pay your way onto a 53-man roster or negotiate which linebacker gets to hit you. It's the one arena in professional sports where reputation and leverage buy you nothing once the ball is snapped. So by the time three separate football voices had weighed in, a Hall of Fame caliber receiver, an accomplished lineman, and a professional analyst, the pattern was clear. None of them were debating whether Paul could compete. They'd all skipped straight past that question to describing, in specific physical terms, exactly how badly it would go if he tried. And all of that sets up the moment Brady's own comments land so much harder than they otherwise would. Because Brady wasn't just another retired athlete piling on. Brady is the standard everyone in football gets measured against. And his dismissal of the Paul family's football credibility carries a different kind of weight than anyone else's. Here's where the Brady side of this story sharpens into focus, because his comments didn't arrive in a vacuum. They arrived in the middle of a running war with the entire Paul family, one that had already produced a slap, a lawsuit threat, and a public warning from Jake himself. Go back to where it started. Before any punches were thrown, this was just trash talk ahead of a flag football exhibition. The feud began when Brady and Logan Paul talked during Super Bowl week at Radio Row, ahead of the Fanatics Flag Football Classic, having a conversation about the game. What should have been a promotional back and forth turned into Brady drawing a hard line about who actually belongs on a football field. Brady told him, "I'm actually a little worried for you. You're a good athlete, but you're like, these guys are at another level. You're not the level. You're a good athlete." Read that twice. Brady's not even insulting Logan's athleticism outright. He's doing something more surgical. He's drawing a category line. Good athlete, not an NFL athlete. And that line applies to anyone outside the league trying to claim otherwise, Jake included. Then Brady escalated the comparison to WWE itself, and by extension, everything the Paul brothers represent in the entertainment athlete space. That's cute. I love WWE. It's very cute. But honestly, this is like real football. This is real competition, Brady said. Cute. That word did more damage than any insult could have, because it doesn't even engage with the argument. It just dismisses the whole category. WWE. Crossover stunts, everything the Paul brothers have built their fame on, as something adjacent to real sport, not part of it. Paul's not exempt from that label just because he's throwing punches instead of throwing drop kicks. If wrestling is cute compared to real football, a boxer's slot receiver fantasy sits in the exact same bucket. Brady drew a line between people who compete in the NFL and everyone circling it hoping to be let in. And everyone with the Paul name landed on the outside of that line. The tension didn't stay verbal for long. Weeks later, at Fanatics Fest in New York, it turned physical. Things got heated between Brady and Logan Paul while on stage, before Tom slapped Logan's face, which led to Knicks star Karl Anthony Towns getting between them. Logan didn't take it quietly. Logan posted the altercation writing he was suing Brady, adding on X that it happened because he was roasting Tom for beating him in flag football, calling it a horrible example for the kids, and noting he'd suffered it with a torn tricep. Brady's response back showed he wasn't backing down from the mockery either. "I tried, America," Brady replied on X to the viral video. "We'll try again next time I see this nerd." A comment fans suspected was part of a staged argument. That's when Jake stepped fully into the fight, no longer commenting from the sidelines of his brother's feud, but making it personal to himself. "I'm honestly P.id. I wish I was there to back him up," he said. "But I have one message for Tom. The Paul brothers are coming for you and revenge is sweet. Tom, keep your head on a swivel." Notice the language there. The Paul brothers, plural. Jake wasn't defending Logan as a separate individual grievance. He folded himself and his own football ambitions into the same fight, the same family brand, the same claim to legitimacy that Brady had already mocked once. If Brady thinks the whole Paul approach to football is cute, then Jake's NFL pitch isn't a separate case to be judged on its own. It's just the next chapter of the same dismissal. And Brady, for his part, hasn't shown any interest in softening that verdict, even when addressing it more diplomatically in interviews. When asked about the tension boiling over between NFL players and the Paul family, he described having to actively restrain his own peers from escalating things further. Brady said he'd had NFL players coming to him wanting to retaliate, and he told them to chill out, that they weren't committing any crimes against Logan Paul. That detail matters more than it first appears. Brady wasn't defending the Pauls there. He was managing his own locker room's contempt for them, treating the whole situation as beneath a real response. Even his damage control reads like another layer of dismissal. The Pauls aren't worth an actual fight from current NFL players, just a slap from a retired one and a joke about being a nerd. So when you line all of it up, the not the level comment, the cute label, the slap, the revenge is sweet warning, and Brady's own team of active NFL players wanting to escalate things themselves, you get a fuller picture of what his stance on Jake's NFL dream actually is. It was never a single press conference or a single tweet. It was built comment by comment, month by month, into a consistent verdict. Whatever the Paul family says about football, Brady's already decided it doesn't belong in the same conversation as the real thing. And that verdict landed right as Jake was doubling down publicly on his own plan, repeating to front office sports that teams and coaches were already interested, that all it would take was practicing routes. The two threads, Brady's dismissal of the family's football credibility and Jake's insistence that his NFL move is basically a formality, were happening at the exact same time, feeding off each other, each making headlines the other side couldn't ignore. So where does all of this actually leave Jake Paul's NFL dream, and what's left unresolved once the noise settles? Nothing about this story has closed. Paul hasn't signed with a team. He hasn't walked onto a college campus. He hasn't stepped foot on an NFL practice field in any official capacity. Has Jake Paul signed a contract with NFL team Cleveland Browns? No. As of now, there's no contract, no tryout on record. Nothing beyond his own account of conversations with unnamed coaches and teams. But that hasn't stopped him from continuing to talk about it like it's already in motion. Every few months, a new outlet catches him repeating some version of the same pitch. Sometimes Browns first, sometimes Stanford first, sometimes Cowboys as the backup. And each version gets treated as fresh news because the football world can't quite decide whether to keep ignoring it or keep reacting to it. That indecision is its own kind of answer. If this were purely a joke, nobody would still be responding. But Brady responded, Brown responded, Lewin responded. An entire analyst show built a segment around it. The volume of pushback tells you the football world doesn't see this as background noise, it can just let pass. It sees it as a claim to legitimacy that needs to be publicly and repeatedly shut down. There's a version of this story where Paul actually walks onto a college roster somewhere and gets a handful of reps that go nowhere, and the whole thing quietly ends there, a footnote in both his boxing career and Brady's ongoing feud with his family. There's another version where the Browns or Cowboys, chasing attention and ticket sales, actually give him a preseason look just to see what happens on camera, the kind of stunt franchises have pulled before with novelty names. And there's a third version, the one Brown and Lewin and Infante all seem to be betting on, that none of it goes anywhere at all, that the routes never get practiced beyond a highlight reel on social media, that the Stanford walk-on never materializes past a podcast mention, that the couple of teams and coaches stay unnamed forever. In that version, the entire NFL dream exists exactly where it's existed since 2022, in tweets, in interviews, in confident sound bites that never quite convert into a jersey with his name on it. What is settled, at least for now, is the shape of Brady's position. He's never had to issue a formal statement specifically about Jake's NFL chances because he didn't need to. The line he drew with Logan, good athlete, not the level, cute compared to real competition, already covers it. Everything Jake has said since about mediocrity in the league and teams lining up to sign him runs directly into that same wall. And the Paul brothers haven't backed off either. Logan's still promising payback with a torn tricep and a lawsuit threat hanging in the air. Jake's still telling reporters revenge is coming, still repeating his football timeline to any outlet that'll ask, still framing his boxing losses as pit stops on the way to a bigger stage rather than signs to reconsider the plan altogether. So the feud keeps running on both tracks at once. The physical one, waiting for whatever revenge actually looks like, and the credibility one, where Brady's dismissal sits out there unanswered by anything except Jake's own confidence. Confidence that's carried him from Vine to a boxing ring to 12 professional wins. Whether it carries him onto an actual NFL field is the one part of this story nobody, not Brady, not Brown, not Paul himself, has actually settled yet. For now, the cleats are still sitting wherever he left them. The routes are still unpracticed on any field that counts, and the loudest voice in football has already told him